We no longer live under the rule of tyrants who command us. Instead, we have become our own taskmasters. These words from Byung-Chul Han reveal a disturbing truth about modern life. We were promised freedom, yet freedom has turned into a new kind of prison. We are told we can do anything, be anyone, achieve everything. And so we push ourselves harder than any dictator ever could. In this video, we will explore why our obsession with achievement and freedom leaves us feeling more exhausted, more anxious, and more burned out than ever. You will discover how external oppression has been replaced by self-exploitation, why modern freedom is an illusion, and how constant acceleration silently destroys our ability to rest. And finally, we will ask, what does true freedom really look like? So, let's enter the world of Byung-Chul Han's Burnout Society. You were told, you must obey, you must not do this, you must follow the order. Freedom was limited, but the boundaries were clear. Han argues that in today's achievement society, we are no longer commanded by an external master. Instead, we live under the silent in earlier times. Society was organized around discipline. There were strict rules, clear prohibitions, and visible authority figures. Compulsion of possibility. Instead of hearing, you must. We now hear, yes, you can. On the surface, this seems liberating. But the paradox is that, yes, you can quickly turns into, yes, you must. We internalize this demand and begin exploiting ourselves. No one forces us to check emails at midnight. No boss demands we track our sleep, count our steps, optimize every second of our day. We do it willingly because we feel we must. We become entrepreneurs of our own existence, treating ourselves like projects to be managed, optimized, and perfected. But self-exploitation is more destructive than external oppression. Why? Because when someone else commands you, you can resist, you can rebel. But when the voice of pressure comes from within, there is no escape. You become both the oppressor and the oppressed, the master and the slave. The psychological consequences are devastating. Anxiety, depression, and above all, burnout. Han describes this not as failure, but as collapse. The collapse of a self has been driven beyond its limits, consumed by the endless demand to perform. In this way, modern society has not freed us. It has simply shifted the burden of oppression onto our own shoulders. We are exhausted, not because we are less free, but because our supposed freedom has enslaved us to ourselves. What makes this trap so powerful is the illusion that we are free. We live in an age that worships choice. Every app, every product, every career path tells us, you can do whatever you want. Yet the more choices we face, the more pressure we feel. Han explains that freedom today is not the power to rest, reflect, or simply exist. It is the constant pressure to do more. We are told to hustle, to optimize, to transform every hobby into a side hustle, every thought into content, every day into measurable productivity. Consider the culture of hustle. Social media glorifies sleepless nights, endless work, and the constant grind. People celebrate working themselves into exhaustion, believing it proves strength, ambition, or discipline. But beneath the surface, what we see is not strength, but exhaustion disguised as success. Han calls this the tragedy of the entrepreneur of the self. Each of us becomes a little company, always advertising, always competing, always trying to prove our worth. We sell not just our labor, but our personalities, our creativity, even our private lives. The illusion of freedom hides the reality of captivity. We are not told what to do, but we are trapped in the need to constantly choose, to constantly act, to constantly prove ourselves. The most frightening prisons are not the ones built from walls and chains, but the ones built from endless possibility. So we must ask, do we really own our lives? Or do our lives own us? If there's one word that defines our time, it is speed. Everything is accelerating. Communication, technology, information. News spreads instantly. Notifications demand constant attention, and silence becomes rare. We live in a storm of endless updates, each demanding a reaction. Han argues that this obsession with speed and constant activity destroys our ability to dwell. To dwell means to stay, to linger, to rest in the present. But in an accelerated world, there is no time to dwell. Every moment is consumed by the next notification, the next task, the next deadline. We see this in the way people scroll late into the night, exhausted, yet unable to stop. We see it in the worker who checks messages during dinner, the student who feels guilty for taking a break, the parent who feels they must maximize even leisure time for self-improvement. The result is not liberation, but emptiness. When life becomes a constant rush, reflection disappears. Without reflection, meaning fades. Without meaning, life collapses into pure functionality, a sequence of tasks performed without depth. Psychologically, burnout is not laziness or weakness. It is a collapse of the self driven beyond its capacity, a body and mind consumed by speed. Han's insight is that burnout is not just an individual problem. It is the symptom of an entire society, addicted to acceleration. In this way, modern life does not just tire us. It robs us of silence, stillness, and contemplation, the very conditions needed for a meaningful life. At first glance, today's society looks peaceful. There are no whips, no chains, no dictators forcing us into submission. But Han insists there is a hidden violence, a violence that comes from within. Unlike physical violence, which wounds the body, this new form of violence corrodes the soul. It appears not as punishment, but as exhaustion. It does not scream, it whispers. It does not forbid, it demands. Its weapons are not swords or guns, but deadlines, targets, and invisible pressure to keep going. The most terrifying part is that we inflict this violence upon ourselves. We no longer need masters because we have internalized their voice. We wake ourselves at dawn. We scold ourselves for resting. We punish ourselves for failing to achieve. We whip ourselves with ambition and measure our worth by the numbers on a screen. Han calls this the violence of positivity, the endless encouragement to say yes until we collapse. We no longer resist. We consent. We willingly march into exhaustion, believing we are free. But burnout is not freedom. It is self-destruction. It is society turning human beings into machines, then discarding them when they break down. It is the hidden cost of a world that celebrates achievement, while quietly eroding the human spirit. We are soldiers in a war we never chose, a war not against others, but against ourselves. And the casualties of this war are everywhere, in panic attacks, in sleepless nights, in the quiet despair of lives lived under constant pressure. If achievement is slowly killing us, then what would true freedom look like? For Han, it is not the freedom to do more, but the freedom to do less. True freedom is not acceleration, but stillness, not endless choice, but the ability to rest in silence. To reclaim freedom, we must learn once again how to dwell, to linger in a conversation without rushing, to read a page without checking our phone, to walk without measuring steps, to breathe without turning it into a performance. The Burnout Society tells us to maximize every second. Han challenges us to waste time beautifully, to be unproductive in the most human way possible. For it is in stillness, not speed, that meaning returns. So we are left with a haunting question. If achievement is slowly destroying us, can we dare to step outside the cycle? Can we imagine a life where freedom is not the demand to perform, but the permission to simply exist? Perhaps true liberation begins not with, yes, you can, but with a quiet strength to say, no, I will not.